Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Azure podcast with your host Sam Foote.
And Anne Armstrong.
If you're new here, we're a pair of Azure and Microsoft 365 focused IT security professionals.
It's episode 40 of season 5. Sam and I had a recent discussion around Microsoft Ignite and the news from November. Here's a few things that we covered. Microsoft Ignite experience, key Microsoft Entra, Intune and Defender feature updates and announcements, Azure changes, new features and retirements.
We've noticed that a large number of you aren't subscribed. If you do enjoy our podcast, please do consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to us for you to show your support to the show.
It's a really great episode, so let's dive in.
Hey Alan, how are you doing this week?
Hey Sam, not doing too bad. Busy.
Are you back in UK time zone?
Mostly.
Physically, but not maybe emotionally. I don't know.
Emotionally, definitely not. But from a sleep perspective, mostly, maybe it's like I say late evenings, early evenings. I may be caught having a nap at the moment, just to balance.
But that was happening before Ignite, Alan, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
To be honest.
Not as much, anyway. Yes, no, I'm pretty much there. I had a good sleep on the way back. The flight was good back, things like that. Did catch the storm coming in. I think we were a bit choppy on the way in, but all good. I think the jet stream helped us as well because it's only like 7.5 hours to come back. So, pretty fast. How's your week been?
Yeah, not too bad, really. Actually had a week off this week, so yeah, it's been pretty chill, really. Gives me a time to read the book of news and catch up on everything Ignite. How was the in-person experience, Alan?
Yeah, it was better than last year. A lot bigger. Let's just say that myself and my colleague Ben, I think we were doing 20 to 30,000 steps a day there, which is a rather large increase, especially for my sort of step count. But yeah, very tiring, long days, long evenings, things like that. So lots of the hub was rather large this time. There's a big, Microsoft had a big section as well. Yeah, I think I spent a couple of days in the hub just catching up with various vendors and things like that, and catching up with the Microsoft teams. And yeah, I was running the couple of the labs. They were fun, quite interesting, quite a few questions in them. So yeah, that was good to be part of part of that as well.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, well, I'm glad to see it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's sold out so quickly as well. So it really goes to show that I think the big benefit is obviously they've merged the partner, conference in with it, so everybody's got more of a reason to go. There's more of the ecosystem in the same room, isn't there?
Yeah, and it definitely gives chance because there is potential there for customers and partners to actually meet up where they maybe not able to, because like ourselves, we're in the UK, but we do have some US customers that we can catch up with as well. Those sort of events. Yeah. It's moving to next year. It's in San Francisco. They've already announced where it's going to be. And they reckon it's going to double in size.
Wow.
Almost getting to Orlando size, I think, at this rate. So yeah, definitely getting up to full speed, I think, in that space. So
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Well, it's no bad thing, is it? To have those types of events return back to normal, shall we say? Because we've slowly seen it iterate back to how it once was, maybe. Since the reduction in over COVID and subsequent years.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to catch up with a few of the attendees that I met up with last year as well, which was good. Sean and Robin there, so that was good to catch up with them in person as well.
Nice. Should we start running through the news? I assume got quite a lot of updates this month.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go first. If that's all right. So mine's gonna be a bit everywhere because I think there's some interesting things outside of like my normal sort of security space side of things. I suppose you could say, unfortunately, it's going to be AI related, some of it. Because
is there going to be anything that's not AI related that you're going to cover?
There's a small bit. No, it's not too bad, but yeah, I did say to Ben that there's going to be at least one, piece of silicon chip that's going to be created at this Ignite, and I think there's like 4 or something like that, if I remember, something like that, 2 or 3 at least, coming out. But yes, so let's talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot, because they did rebrand it recently from Copilot for 365. So one of the things I thought was interesting that came out of Ignite was the new agents. Did you see any of that, Sam?
Yeah, I did. The rebrand of AI Studio to Foundry and all of that type of integration. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes and no. So they got some. They've built some out-of-the-box agents that are pre-built for Copilot. So I think it's just outside of that. I think they're Microsoft ones. So they've got an agent for SharePoint, which, in effect, you add it to a SharePoint site, and then in Copilot or in Teams you can at it, and then it all the data is grounded based on that SharePoint site, so you can ask it questions about that data specifically from that side of things. They brought out an agent for self-service, employee self-service. That's in effect, going through policies that you might have, and again, you sort of tie it to your HR data. A facilitator agent that hooks into Teams and chats, and is allowed, in effect, writes up real-time notes for you in Teams, team meetings and things like that. So outside of Copilot and you asking it at the end, things, it actually interacts with you as you're going through the meeting and is calling it out, which I thought was interesting. Did you see the interpreter agent?
No, go on.
Demo. So if you're in a Teams meeting, someone speaking another language, you can turn this on, and it will interpret them and change the language to to your language. So Spanish to English, as an example, and then speak it out as they're talking, but in their tone of voice as well. So it like sounds like them, but in English or the language that you speak.
So is this live voice clone deep faking?
Yes, I guess you could say that in that form. So they demoed that side of things, what I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
The other one is Project Manage Agent.
Now, Alan. Danger.
No, I'm not saying it can replace anybody. But some of the projects that
you said that, not me, by the way.
Sorry,
go on.
But yeah, some of the projects that I work on, I work alone. I don't have a PM because they're small enough to manage. In effect, this is helping create tasks, do some reporting for you, progressing, the tracking, reminders, notifications, and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's just like a little helping, I suppose, a helping hand Just make sure the project keeps going. So I think that'd be handy. Just got to work out if you have to pay for it or not. That's going to be the next thing.
Yeah, so I was going to ask. I'd seen these agents. Is it all just included in your Copilot license? What happens if people are and aren't? Have we got any of that sort of information?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I've not looked into it. That's my next thing, to see how much they cost, if they do, or if it is included.
Okay.
The next one that's Copilot related in Teams, analyzing screen shared content. So it actually analyzes what's on the screen and then can also summarize what is being done on the screen itself, which is quite interesting. So it's analyzing the video in effect, isn't it? And then telling you what's actually happening there. So
that's going to be... Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh, it can, and just reading this, it can summarize, screen content, which products had the highest sale, things like that. So if you're sharing a spreadsheet, things, that is actually quite insane, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking that could be quite good intelligence for IT teams to see what's going on, what's being shared. I was thinking DLP more than anything.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. What else was there that I wanted to talk about? There's some updates to the Copilot and Outlook to help scheduling. You can ask Copilot to schedule focus time or one-to-ones, or to draft an agenda for a meeting, things like that. Seems quite cool. It should be available by the end of November. So it's probably just a Copilot update, actually, or an Outlook update. They don't say where it's the new or the old Outlook. Probably the
new one. No.
Yeah. Okay, I think that might be it on Copilot. Might not be it on AI, but
I think it's cool that they're making them into actual agents, aren't they? Because it's kind of the same functionality that we've had. No, there is some new functionality there, but I was thinking like the one that takes your notes and things like that. Is it Facilitator or something like that?
Yeah.
That was already kind of there, wasn't it? Or at least part of it, but it wasn't interactive, was it? It wasn't like...
It wasn't in the meeting shouting out at, in chat and things like that, no.
Yeah, like... Yeah. That's going to be interesting to see how that interacts with the flow of a meeting. Are you going to want to, like, mute it? Like, what's it going to do? It's going to be interesting to see.
Will it come up and say, you've got 5 minutes for the meeting, let's wrap up kind of stuff, Will it be like that as well? Rather than being prompts to yourselves, it might be actually in the chat going, hey, stop talking about this, we need to move on.
Well, it would be quite cool if it could DM you and nudge you, maybe. If you're saying a lot and all of that sort of stuff. Because what can you do? You can do that thing, can't you, where it tells you...
PowerPoint. Presenter,
is it PowerPoint? Yeah, what is it called?
Presenter training or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. It'd be quite cool if it could nudge you on certain things.
Yeah. Okay, so to Defender for Cloud. So, Defender for APIs in effect. Well, not necessarily that SKU itself, but APIs. Microsoft have brought in API security posture into CSPM. So what that allows you to do, and it's in both free and the Defender CSPM paid for as well. So in the free one, you get some recommendations about your API, and also they get inventoried. The good thing around this is that once you can see them, there's potential that you can also see where you've got AI services, because they're normally generally backed behind them. And then when you get the full Defender CSPM, in effect, you can see attack paths and some other high-risk things in there, like some of your data classification side of things in your queries. So some of that other functionality that you were getting where you paid for it, some of that sort of coming into the CSPM side of it.
So why have they given that away for free now?
I think that a lot of I would expect that a lot of users wouldn't be paying the $200 a month to get the protection probably side of things and everything.
Yeah, is it just now a tease for an upsell maybe now? Maybe
Yeah.
because
Here's
it
all your
is very
problems.
expensive, isn't it? Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
okay, yeah, makes sense.
I've not looked at the pricing for it, but I assume an API manager instance or an API would then be classed as a resource, and you have to
Resource
pay
for Defender system.
$5 for it and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have brought in container security posture as well. I've not really looked into this. Security teams are able to address vulnerabilities early so they're building in some extra stuff into the CI/CD pipeline process, and also starting to include Docker Hub and JFrog Artifactory. Probably butchered that completely.
I have no idea what the second part of that was.
It just says JFrog. JFrog, yeah, and it just says Artifactory. That's what it actually says. I don't know, but yeah, JFrog.
New to me, but I bet you it's massive.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've actually butchered it. So they've brought in some stuff around. Again, it's a little bit of AI, but AI security posture. It's more around multi-environment, multi-cloud environments, as well as looking at the infrastructure as code and misconfigurations there, as you're starting to do it, as well as attack paths, vulnerabilities from the code and runtime. So starting to bring that into the fold as well. What else is there that's worth talking about? Probably from a SOC XDR sort of operation side of things. There's a thing in here around that if you're Defender, if you're got Defender for Business, that side of things, you can now hook into Huntress SOC services. Now there's an integration there direct into their services. I guess it's kind of like a lightweight service that they do for small business. So that was quite cool. Let's have a look. I think we did Defender for Class. Some other things. Yeah, that's okay. Entra private access and internet access side of things. There were some updates in here. But one of them was that Copilot for Security could also start reading the data from Entra Private Access or Global Secure Access sort of capability. They're adding it into the fold. And they're looking to improve some of the functionality around, there's some previews now around TLS inspection and things like that. So it will start to come out to enhance their service there. I don't think there wasn't too much around Intune. The only thing around not to say Intune, but Windows was the Windows Auto Patch, Hot Patch that came out.
Okay.
Auto Patch was already out. The hot patching, so being able to do updates without requiring a reboot for a couple of months. So they've had that functionality in Azure for some of the server workloads, but now it's come to Windows, and Server 2025 will have had it, but on-premise Server 2025 can also do it now, or will be able to do it, which I thought was very interesting in that space as well, not just Azure. Probably a slightly smaller one, but Microsoft Security Exposure Management became generally available as an announcement. So being able to see all your attack surface sort of exposures, attack paths, and things like that, all in one place, because it all feeds in from Defender for Cloud and all the XDR solutions.
Didn't we see very favourable pricing as well on that?
I didn't know there was a price for it.
That essentially not, like, as in it's effectively just it's gone GA, but it's just essentially all the data that's fed into it that you pay for, not the products themselves. You know,
Yeah.
which
Yeah. Okay.
which seemed a bit mental to me that it wasn't even its own SKU. Because I
No.
get that it is just a collection of the data that you've already collected, I suppose, in a different viewpoint. But somebody's got to pay to maintain the service and build it. Like, it's
And
not
add content to it and things. Yeah.
right. So, don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
seems
true.
really good. Like,
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. You're right. You can only see. It's only valuable for the data that you're collecting, or the service you got. The Defender XDR service that you got enabled. I think there was some ideas around bringing in some other vulnerability data from other third-party sources, as well as, I suppose, I think there's some other integrations, isn't there, around the identity pieces into the identity threat detect and response side of things. So maybe that will feed some of it as well for the recommendations. So now we're going to go on to Purview, which seems, from the security, compliance, and identity perspective, sort of space, got the most updates.
Alan, wait, just a second. You're going to talk about Purview.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Crack on. This is
Yes.
unprecedented.
It's not my favorite area. No.
Well,
But
it kind of sounds like it might be now.
might have to be because of how work we're going to get this way. But
Sorry, go on.
Yes, so they brought out a Purview data, a data security posture management. So we've got another posture management solution. Visibility, context, insights around the Purview data security solutions. Bring it all into one place. So, in effect, giving you information, from your information protection, your insider risk management, DLP, etc. Helping to identify policy gaps, things like that, where you should probably have some to tighten up the security around the data, as it sounds. So that's going to be really interesting to take a look at.
Yeah,
it's going to be at some point. There's going to be a I suppose exposure management should probably be it, but there's probably going to be a posture management port at some point.
Yeah, I hope. Well, my first thought when I saw this was, firstly, it's kind of chicken and egg. People have got to have consumed, but I assume it's going to be a portal to suggest. So it might be a good starting point for people, because a lot of people open, Purview or the new Purview portal or old compliance portal. Actually, it's actually been retired now. So anyway, new Purview portal. And get very confused about where they should start. So I think any guidance that we can give to people to nudge them along. Because our starting points with Purview are pretty simplistic, I would say. Because I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by it, and that sort of it pushes it down their priorities. But I think as soon as people, if they're licensed for it, I think that's the big key thing. As soon as they start using it, they really start to see the value of it. But it's almost like they're too apprehensive to start. So I think if you can bring that all together in one place, I think that's a really powerful thing. And what I'm hoping is that it will expand into or build out a true monitoring capability, because we've never really had a proper monitoring capability for Purview. We do have, like, the Activity Explorer and other screens like that, but it's nowhere near sophisticated enough for what most organizations want to ask it questions of. So I think hopefully this is what this is going to morph into and make it a lot easier for people to first get started. And then secondly, once they have got started, making it as easy as possible for people to manage, so they keep doing it, for the long term.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I haven't taken a look at it yet, because I think it's activated now. I can't remember. I've not looked.
No, I haven't checked it yet. I'll fire it up over the next week in my dev tenant and see what it's like.
Yeah, so the other bits in Purview is DLP for Microsoft 365 Copilot, being able to restrict what can be summarized by the Copilot service
Very
based on
good.
sensitive
Yep.
data, things like that, and stop it from being grounded. So I guess this is probably just to help with. I guess there's a lot of concern around the access that users have to SharePoint and the files. Maybe they're not ready to do labeling, things like that. And there's other ways, wasn't there, Sam, that you could try and restrict it, but some of it was quite long. I suppose not long-winded, but long pieces of work to actually get done. So hopefully this will streamline it a little bit.
This anti-summarization control. I haven't looked at it in depth. Is that using labels to do that? Is it hang off of a label?
It's a DLP policy in effect. So I think you can choose the context you want to use to say what you can summarize on.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's good, because I've seen real examples of people utilizing Copilot to regenerate confidential works into something else that may not be caught by a like, let's say you've got a I don't know, a secret project, project Alan, we'll call it, asking Copilot to summarize it and rewrite all references of Project Alan to Project Sam, as an example, might help you to circumvent some of your DLP policies potentially. So I think Copilot can be really useful for me. It's really useful as like an assistant. Where is this document? Where in the hell in my personal OneDrive is X? Find this presentation that was shared with me 6 months ago. But being able to limit what it can and can't do in a quite granular way is really important, I think, and is going to become more important, I would say. Because essentially, it's like AI are back at this point, or is it? I don't know. Let's call it R back, because you're going to want to say, people can summarize internal documents, but they can't summarize highly confidential documents, as an example, which I think is right, isn't it?
Yeah, or invoices, things like that might not be labeled, using
yeah, and things that should be immutable, right? Like, like invoices, especially, once a finance team has generated an invoice, that does not get changed after that fact. What if somebody took that invoice and asked Copilot to regenerate the numbers on it and then send it off like it was legitimate?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of loads, like, as we're speaking, I'm thinking of loads of like nefarious ways that you could use Copilot, but I think people are going to have to control it. And the vast majority of people I've talked to about Copilot in the data space are concerned about it. Not concerned that it won't have the productivity benefits that are sort of marketed, which I'm on board with. I'm a user of it myself. I see it, but how you can control it, because with great flexibility comes data security challenges, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely potential for abuse of it, as it were.
Yeah, no, I think it's a vector for immediate exfiltration. I think my biggest concern at the moment is external threat actors compromising identities, which we see all the time with business email compromise, and just essentially having, AI powered Google search across everything. Sorry, I should say Bing search, I suppose, shouldn't I? But like, it's real,
Copilot,
and it's
yeah,
and you can interact with it programmatically, can't you? So it's like it's even. Yeah, so it's something that needs to be monitored and maintained. It's just another thing, isn't it, in the ecosystem of SecOps that you've got to manage, isn't it? It's just it's now another discipline that will need focus and attention. So I do think organizations are going to struggle with that, given their capacity restraints and limits.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I just want to circle back on JFrog. As you were talking before, I looked at their LinkedIn page. They've got nearly 2,000 employees, or just over 2,000 employees. So yeah, they're not small by any stretch of the imagination. I just live under a rock.
Yeah, okay. And I probably butchered it at the other bits as well. So yeah, apologies for that. In addition to DLP for Copilot, they're expanding the file types covered by Endpoint DLP. I don't know what they are, but they're expanding it. So that's interesting. You can Power Automate integrate on actions as part of the policies now, or will be able to. So instead of just creating alerts to be investigated, you can now actually do some automation directly out of it if you're not integrated with Sentinel and things like that. Security Copilot can understand DLP policies and give you, recommendations, things like that, or if you need to understand what it is. And they've got a blanket protection for non-supported file types. Users will be able to enforce general protection for file types that Endpoint DLP does not currently scan and monitor. So
yeah, it's quite, the list is, no, it's not restrictive, but it is if you're using, like, quotes, exotic file types, as I call them.
Yeah, so without being able to scan the content, things like that, I guess it can go, well, if I see this type of file, I don't want it to leave, kind of thing. Yeah, makes sense. That's probably in conjunction with the expanding file type coverage for DLP, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
always the edge exotic file types that causes the issues.
Yeah.
If you're happy, if you're lucky enough to work with a customer that just does, I don't know, Office and PDF, then you're absolutely fine. But you go into like manufacturing or something like that, and it's just like
AutoCAD. Yeah.
Yes, there'll be some person with a workstation that have got files from like 30 years ago in a format that only the Windows XP box that runs a machine even understands, right? So anyway, I digress. I apologize.
Yeah, I think that was probably it for me. There's a little bit around integrations with Insider Risk Management for Copilot, risky AI usage kind of thing. But I think that was in preview at least, wasn't it? I think previously. Well, that's starting to come in anyway.
Yeah, you can kind of think about activity integration for Insider Risk Management. They're going to connect everything. Like they're, if you've been in IRM's portal recently, there's more stuff that's in preview in there than there is actually not in preview, if that makes sense. And IRM is, if it's configured and you've got the agent. You didn't talk about the agent, Alan.
What agent?
This unified agent that they're talking about, or is that just
yeah, it wasn't in the book of news.
Oh,
so but yeah, we can talk about that.
No, you could crack on. I thought you'd cover it, to be totally honest with you.
No, I should have done. Yeah, I do remember it now. It is a key one to do. So let's talk about it now. Yes, Microsoft have releasing a unified agent for the. Is it for all platforms? I think it's only Windows at the moment, isn't it?
I didn't look into that much depth.
Yeah, I think it's probably Windows only at the moment. But in effect, it's in effect bringing you Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Endpoint DLP. Is there another one?
Did I see an OT segment to the circle?
Yes, I did see that. Yes.
And what does that mean, Alan? Because I derped when I saw that, and I was like,
I didn't know if that was just. I didn't know if that was just. I say just, but the device discovery part of Defender for Endpoint.
No. It was OT.
I know.
It wasn't IoT. It was OT.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting one because I don't know how that's.
I was like, what?
I suppose in theory. Well,
No.
yeah, we'll have to see when
Okay,
we
anyway,
when we
yeah.
look at it. But yeah, if that's being released, that means that integrations or enablement of those tooling is really simple now, or will be really simple.
Yeah, and
So-
that's what we want, isn't it? We want one thing to do multiple things, don't we? That is going to help with consolidation to Microsoft, I think, quite dramatically, don't you think? Because, you know, if an organization moves from like another EDR to MDE and it goes on their server estate, then flicking Defender for Identity on is, so we say, one of the hardest bits is negated from that. That's a very simplistic example, but it's going to make it a lot easier for those types of, consumptions.
Oh yeah, because today Defender for Identity you need an agent installed, which isn't hardship at all in itself, but it needs resource, and it stops itself when there's a lot of compute and things like that to not kill Active Directory and things like that. This is baked into where MDE is. Well, it's in the unified agent.
My pessimistic side is thinking, how do we benchmark this? How do we make sure it's fit for purpose for live production use? Because it does kind of sound a little bit scary, doesn't it? Because at the moment, like, let's use the Defender for Identity example. You have to go through a sizing, you have to go through a deployment process, don't you? This now, I assume, is going to be, oh well, we've already got Defender for Endpoint. Let's just flick Defender for Identity on.
Yeah.
Kind of. Well, are there going to be efficiencies gained because they're essentially looking at the same logs? So
I think there is. Yeah. That's exactly how I think it is. Because
do you think the agent is just a log collector now, and it's sent server side for processing now, and you're just flicking on different categories of things to send?
That's in effect what the other one did, but it had to sit on top. It was using I suppose you could say it's using another technology to do that, and because they've refined MDE to the point now where it's it's been awesome anyway, but where it's actually pretty good at the log collection, everything, because they've now integrated, is it Zeek, I think, capability into it where it can actually capture the logs better and everything from the the network side. That actually that's what MDI needs as well. So it's just like you said, reusing the same stuff that's being used for MDE. And doesn't need to add the extra resource on top. So yeah, it's definitely going to be refined in that sense.
Nice, really good.
So yeah, that's it from me. There was absolutely tons more. That's just a snippet.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like 300 announcements or something, 300 changes, I think they said. The keynote was 2.5 hours.
I know, because I didn't catch the start of it, and I was like, it'll be finished by now. And I connected, and then I think somebody was talking about AI Foundry, and I was like, cool name. And then I actually just disconnected at that point, because I was like, I needed to see this from the start, basically.
Yeah, it's definitely a long one, but lots of info. So yeah, that's probably the stuff for now. Anyway, I'm sure we'll catch up on some of the other stuff as this month, probably.
Yeah, it's still pretty new, isn't it? Like, it's going to take some time and some cycles to process, I think.
Yeah. So what about you and Sam? What bits?
Okay, well, you've covered quite a lot of what I was going to talk about, but I'm happy for you to do that. Okay. New virtual machine SKUs. New Azure NVIDIA Blackwell AI driven SKUs with just like basically insane like specs basically. I dread to think what these are going to cost, but essentially, the latest from both AMD and Nvidia in terms of compute, across the board. I think it really is for AI type workloads, essentially. So we'll see when they land and what they're actually gonna bring for us. I don't know if you saw much about Azure Local, Alan. I don't know if that's just a
I
rebrand of like Stack or something like that, but it's something that I've put on my list to have a look at.
Yeah, I did see that, and the first thing I thought about was HCI,
Yeah.
and on the back, on your back in the desert or whatever. I think it's a bit more. I think is it a rebrand? I think my interpretation of it was that it was more. It's more of a more advanced one of it, because you can in effect run your AI workloads, things like that on it. It seemed a bit more intense.
Okay. Yeah, definitely something that needs to be researched, because I do really like the idea of, for hybrid workloads, organizations that are cloud aligned to be able to have that sort of seamless experience across both their on-prem, well, hybrid, remote, whatever you want to call it, and cloud workloads. I think that's really important for people. There's a new start experience for Excel, Alan. Did you hear about that?
No.
Why is it not top of your list? Like, Excel is... Anyway, there's a new start experience for Excel. A generative start experience, which allows you to supposedly create quick templates for different Excel sheets that you might need to work on. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I do believe... Well, no, this is a fact, that the Office app integrations of Copilot have been a bit weak, shall we say. Yeah, is that fair to say?
In some of the apps, yes.
In
I think
some
it's
of the
fair to say.
apps. But we do know that they are making big changes there. So it's interesting to see, and I had heard quite a while ago that somebody had basically said that they were going to refresh all the experiences and they're going to become much better. So I'm actually going to go and try this new Excel start experience, because this is the type of thing that I think AI is going to be really good for. Is because I don't know about you, but if I haven't done something before and I want to know about like a standard operating procedure or something like that, I'll Google that, right?
Yeah.
And what would be great is for me to, and if I'm going to dump it into Excel, maybe I'm making like an MVP for a form or an operating procedure or something like that. Having Excel do that for me live as I start could be very powerful, I would say, if it works. And I am gonna be a bit pessimistic because I haven't been so impressed outside of the, what I'll call it's not standalone anymore. It's not standalone, but like the Teams Copilot like chat experience, because that is like top tier chef's kiss, isn't it? Like that is amazing. So yeah, if you're paying for the license, I want it everywhere, basically, as a consumer.
I think that chat's got better again when I
Oh
was
my,
using it today.
uh,
It seems even better than the first version of it.
it's immense. Like it, I just I asked it nicely. I will say please, and sometimes I say thank you to it as well. Like I think it's a person. But some of the stuff it pulls is just amazing. Like, you spoke about this on this call, and here's the relevant document that's buried in your OneDrive. Oh, thank you. It would have taken me... Well, I wouldn't have found that, and I would have had to recreate it. Serverless GPUs on Azure Container Apps. So yeah, now you're going to be able to do serverless GPU, which is... I mean, well, it's like server CG CPU, I suppose, but that's going to allow you to scale those AI accelerated workloads with GPUs in a serverless fashion. Also, dynamic sessions as well in Azure Container Apps, now generally available. It allows you really quick access to secure environments, essentially. So, the code that requires true isolation can be run through dynamic sessions. Not something that I've ever used, but I thought was a really good update there. I'm going to skip over all of the rest of those notes. What are we talking about? Is it Windows Link? We talking
that was
about
on my
that?
list. That
Well,
was
it
on my
obviously
list.
wasn't, Alan, because I just raised it.
But what's it called? Unified Agent took over.
And then you forgot about both of them, didn't you?
Yeah.
So is this an ARM dumb terminal for Windows 365, right? Is that what we're
thin PC in effect?
thin client? Sorry, yeah. Yeah, interesting. I saw it was $349, I think. I've got in my notes.
Yeah, I thought it was less than that actually, but I thought it was 249, but that might be UK maybe.
Okay. Oh, you think it's £249? Let me just have a look. Windows 365 link, it's called.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look. I'm just pulling up the specs now. I should have got. But yeah. Yeah. MSRP at $349, generally available April 2025. So now it's got dual screen, and all it can do is connect to Windows 365. Do we think this is a goer?
So I guess the question around this is, you can rebuild anything to Windows 365 boot to in effect do the same thing.
Agreed.
So if you had old hardware, things like that, old desktops, maybe even laptops, you can potentially do it. The only thing I think that's the benefit to this is that it's fully managed out of the box in effect. It's very simplistic, and I think that because it's ARM and things like that, they're guaranteeing the quality of Teams calls and things like that with it. They're saying it's high quality Teams integration, so it's able to process the audio and video and things like that, where I suppose on a other machine that's not necessarily guaranteed to going over to Windows 365. So yeah, I think that's probably it. But it's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, I think there are some other. They're joining that world or that ecosystem, because you've already got the thin, the gels, I think they're called, things like that that can connect to Windows 365, but maybe the performance of them for audio and video maybe isn't as good. Maybe that's the reason.
Yeah.
What was interesting, a few people at Ignite were hoping that this was going to be part of your subscription to Windows 365 in some form, or a small add-on to it, because it's the only way you can access it, kind of thing.
Yeah, true. Well, because it's I don't know, it's redundant if you don't have Windows 365, right? I think that's the thing that scares me about these devices, is that when you're so tightly coupled to a singular service, it doesn't support AVD, doesn't support DevBox. So
yeah, I think it doesn't today. I think probably because it's all the same service.
I know, but yeah, I can only go with what is what is being talked about now.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, yeah, it kind of, I mean, if Windows 365 is your solution, then it makes sense. But I don't know. Also, there's something, I don't know. There's something a bit weird about that you can't flash it to like an actual Windows PC if you need it to do something else. It seems like its lifespan is highly limited. You know, because you then pay for compute twice, don't you? Because arguably, a lot of the Windows 365 SKUs that people connect to could have just been run on this box itself, couldn't it? You know, what's the lowest SKU? 2 core, 4 gig of RAM, something like that. 8 gig of RAM. You know.
Yeah, and I suppose you can buy, as an example, a Dell Optiplex, like what they call 3080s, the super small factors, which are probably a similar size, and you could run Windows on them. Even at
Yeah,
a full...
I think we've also got to think about the management cost, though, haven't we? If you went down that route, this is like if you've got a chunk of your workforce connecting to Windows 365 on the regular. I'm thinking like support centers, those types of places.
Yeah.
You know, or you know where you've got a lot, you're using Windows 365, and you just want a fleet of the same box. People sit down, authenticate with it, and they connect to their remote machine. Right.
Yeah, and you can just switch out for the next one if it breaks, and then probably return it to Microsoft to be fixed, etc. I think they did say these were there's a whole thing about it being sustainability, and that they're easy to repair. Yeah, designed to be long lasting and repairable.
Right.
And they're made of a minimum of 50% of recycled content, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. And at the end of the day, all it's doing is USB pass through into Teams and video streaming, isn't it? So it's going to be super low power. It's tiny as well. It's like 12 centimeters by 12 centimeters, right?
Yeah.
It's minute, so it's great from that perspective. That's pretty much it from Ignite from me, to be totally honest with you. There's some other stuff, but I don't really want to go through all the AI updates for different products, to be totally honest with you, because it's not. You can AI all the things. That's all I'm going to say, basically. You do a thing, you can AI it now. The only other one that I wanted to just... sorry, 2 seconds. I just had a note for something else, which was cool. Oh, Azure Chaos Studio. It's now available in Canada Central Region for all of our Canadian listeners. Which I thought was... I just... It's... it's launched. What can I say? It's an update. The only other thing that I did actually want to just talk about is App Insights code optimizations. So what's cool is if you're using Application Insights, this is now generally available, but it will show you potential code optimizations. Because what happens is when you run Application Insights, you when you're in production, you give it your debug. I can't remember what they're called. Debug like header files, basically. And what that basically means is you can reverse your compiled code back into readable code. Because imagine if you've got like a bug on your production software, you don't want to be getting like compiled code back that you've got to like sift through, if that makes sense. So you use a debug. Oh, sorry, I can't remember what it's called. But essentially, Application Insights allows you to see the actual code that's running. But it also shows you how long it takes to execute that code as well. So that's why Application Insights is really powerful for developers, because when you roll out an update, you can see all your KPIs and all your metrics and see what you've changed, how that's affected. and you're going to now get code optimization recommendations, essentially. So that's cool. I think that could be very handy, especially if you've rolled out something that you haven't noticed. I think is, pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it does sound very valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
Because also it saves on, potentially you can save on resources and things like that, can't you? So
well, this is the big thing is a lot of my sort of previous life was deploying like custom built applications into Azure, and trust me when I say this, you will want to optimize your binaries going from on-prem to cloud. A virtual CPU core is not the same in the cloud. I'm sorry, every cloud provider, but it's just not. So you do want to do a little bit of low-hanging fruit optimization. It can save you a lot of money in the long run, and it can also save you a lot of headaches with scaling for spiky and bursty type events. It is very important in the cloud. So having something to assist you in that is going to really help you. Not for the betterment of Microsoft, but definitely for you and your organizations.
cool.
And that's it from me.
Nice. This is a nice short episode.
You got us covered pretty well. Thanks for your update, Alan. And I'm glad you had a good time at Ignite again.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay. Yeah, what's next week, Alan?
Yes, next episode I'm going to look at Azure Update Manager and Hot Patch. I think I'm just going to do a couple of sort of areas, kind of patch management side of things, because I think it's quite key to look at. It's always it's key to keep things up to date, but just other ways that you can manage it in Azure and on premise. So I think it's worth sort of talking about.
Nice. That'd be great.
Cool. So did you enjoy this episode? If so, please do consider leaving us a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. This really helps us to reach out to more people like yourselves. If you have any specific feedback or suggestions to our episodes, we have a link in our show notes, or you can leave a comment on our YouTube episodes.
Yeah, if you've made it this far, thanks ever so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks all.